challenges. This is the latest film from Luca Guadagnino, who's the Italian director of I Am Love, Call Me By Your Name, A Bigger Splash, and the Suspiria remake, which, if you remember, twice as long and half as scary. Now, I confess, I have not in the past been his biggest fan. The script is by American playwright and novelist Justin Krichkis, who is also, as it turns out, Mr. Seline Song.
Ah.
Of course, you remember Seline Song came on the program and was absolutely fabulous and directed what I think was both your and my, if not favorite, I mean, in my case, it was my favorite film last year, Past After, which was absolutely fabulous. So this is described in Wikipedia as a romantic sports comedy with a tennis setting, which I have to say I think is probably the worst description of a film. I mean, for a start, if you say romantic sports comedy with a tennis setting, that implies Wimbledon, which is a film that we've talked about a lot more than I would have expected. But believe me, this is nothing like Wimbledon. It is tonally closer to Call Me By Your Name, although I should say at the beginning that I like this much more than Call Me By Your Name. It is a heated, physical tale of love and lust with a particularly tactile sensibility. And tennis. It's co-produced by Zendaya, who is currently, wowing everybody in Dune. She's Tashi, who is a young tennis player who injures her knee and then becomes a tennis coach and a tennis agent. At one point, she says, tennis is a relationship. And that's kind of the thesis of the film. You know, like in Tin Cup, golf, it's all about he's trying to fix his golf swing, but really what he's trying to do is to fix his life, his romantic life. So the story is told in solidly non-linear fashion. It jumps back and forth in time, 3 weeks earlier, midnight, 13 years earlier, 4 days before. Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist, Patrick and Art, old school friends who see and fall in love with Tashi at a tournament when she's playing tennis. The film opens with her later in her life, watching the two of them later in their life playing a game. And they're all exchanging looks between, balls. Between ball play,
I
tennis.
Understand.
I mean, tennis is a sport in which, love is a point thing and they have mixed doubles. And so anyway, it's obviously rife for this kind of interpretation. Then we spiral back to their first meeting with her. The fact that when they both see her on the tennis court, they both desire her and they clearly, to some extent, desire each other. Here's the trailer.
Duncan, she's in another league.
You were incredible today.
To have a fashion line, a foundation, she's gonna turn a whole family into millionaires.
What are you gonna do now?
Unfortunately, my only skill in life is hitting a ball with a racket.
I want you to be my coach.
I want you to be my coach.
How often does this happen? Going after the same girl? Come here.
Which one of us?
If you look back at the history of tennis-related romance films, which is a fairly short history, you think about things like, do you ever see that film Players, which I think is like late 70s?
Oh, a long time ago, yeah.
Long time ago. Not a good film. And then Wimbledon. So it's not a great heritage. What Challenges does, and I think this is quite the thing, is it somehow manages to make the sport of tennis sexy. And before a whole bunch of people that play tennis and have always thought it was sexy write in, I have never, ever, ever thought of tennis as anything other than, gladiatorial combat. I don't think of it as a place in which you can have sort of arguments about relationships through the way in which you deliver a serve or the way in which you call a fault. But somehow the film manages to do that. I mean, it makes us believe, unlikely as it sounds, that as that central character says, tennis is a relationship. Zendaya is terrific in the lead role, as are the two main guys. You do genuinely get a sense that there is a kind of passionate love-hate triangle being played out on this hard court. The time shifts are done very well. You get the sense of watching people in different periods of their life. And funnily enough, although it's an odd comparison, I was thinking of When Harry Met Sally, which is one of the few films in which you see the central characters through a number of periods of their life, and you genuinely believe that you're watching them grow up. When you meet Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan right at the beginning, the college thing, getting in the car, going on the road trip, and then you see them later on and they've developed different haircuts and different mannerisms, and then you see them later on again when you do believe that you're watching people in different stages of their life, and I think you do get that from this. Time shifts are done very, very well. The final act of the film, and it's a lengthy film, it's like 2 hours 15, is a masterclass in dialogue without words. The final act plays out on a court in which everything is to do with gestures. It's literally to do with how is somebody holding a tennis ball? How is somebody holding a tennis racket? Did the ball skim the top of the net or not? Is it a fault? What's happening with the fact that they're all looking at the same person? What did that glance mean? What did that nod mean? What did that shake of the head mean? And now, how a ball is parried and served and volleyed and all the rest of it. As somebody who's kind of a great fan of the visual language of cinema, I did think the final sequence was absolutely superbly done. It is, as with all the director's work, it's typically overcooked. It's got this pumping Reznor Ross soundtrack, which is kind of electrifies everything and literally makes everything kind of throb and thump. And it starts with a kind of close-up on sweaty bodies and sweat pouring off skin, and that is how it stays all the way through. I mean, it is true that Guadagnino does have a talent for tactility. Sometimes the overcookedness becomes way, way overcooked. There is a point in which, during a particularly stormy interaction, the stormy interaction plays out literally in the middle of a storm. And there's a lot of stuff flying around. So in the storm, there's a lot of stuff flying around. And you do feel like going, it's okay, I've got it. It's a stormy moment. I know there's stuff happening, lots of stuff flying around. It looks pretty jaw-dropping. The cameras fly around. I mean, somebody must have sat down and thought, okay, how can we shoot every possible angle? We can put the camera on the tennis ball. Can we put the camera on the tennis racket? Can we, at one point, shoot them from underneath as if the floor is invisible and we're looking up at them? So, I mean, they have shot every possible tennis angle. But the thing is that for all the razzmatazz, it is the more intimate stuff that really works. There's a scene in it that really reminded me of Josh O'Connor's brilliant Physicality in Only You, which is a film that I absolutely love because it's so tactile. So it's overcooked, it's overcranked, it's overlong. But none of those things are necessarily criticisms, and it is absolutely my favorite Luca Guadagnino movie by quite some distance.